The side business that I do, it's basically, selling, right?
Yes.
Selling stuff. So is it cosmetics and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I told my family to say, the only time that you can ask me for money is when the government pays me. Because that salary that's coming is because of my expertise as a doctor. If I get paid and you ask for money and I feel like I can have,
Yes.
I can extend that to you. But the money that I make from my side business, no one can, like, you don't even have to
ask.
Your
money.
It's my money. Because the things that I do to make that money, you can also do it.
Is it possible for me to identify this addiction in myself?
For some, that calls for self-awareness. Yeah, for others, it calls for self-awareness. But remember, I said that others you would identify, but then the issue is, are you able to acknowledge that you're actually in this addiction?
Yeah.
So acknowledging is one of the main issues that plays a huge role. Mental health illnesses, right? Just like any physical illness. So it's the same. If I have malaria, I have to be attended to. So even here, if let's say you feel you've got depression, it's a government place. And so it's more or less like it's a service that the hospital provides. So mostly with the NEMAs and stuff, maybe unless if you go maybe to a private hospital, then now because they have to bring in a consultant. But then Chinama, those are specialists there, so that's the job that they're doing. So you don't even need that NEMA coverage. So you just go there and you'll be seen.
What role do you see support playing in terms of like your therapist or a support group in someone's ability to just overcome or heal from this addiction?
Okay. So support ideally should start from your home setting. Right? That's because the people that you're mostly found with. Family support, very, very important. And so if there are those people that probably have relations who are struggling with date, it's not time now to start shaming them. It's not time to now start judging them, asking them, but what did you do with all that amount of money? And they're like, no, it's time for you to, what they need from you right now is your support, knowing that they can rely on you for support and just help navigate through the situation that they're in.
Hello and welcome to the Money and People podcast, the show where we connect the dots between financial success and the power of human capital. Today, we have on our podcast, Dr. Nancy Mupinga. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Nancy is a psychiatrist and a founder of the Maverick Minds Men's NGO.
Yes, please.
Men's Wellness.
Yes.
Okay. And she's going to tell us a little bit about that in a minute. But our topic of discussion today is overcoming debt addiction and healing from bad financial decisions. This is such an insightful topic. I am excited to be discussing it because it was a request from one of our audience members in the comments. Okay. And we have just spent a lot of time thinking about how we are going to structure this session because, this is a very topical issue right now with mental health affecting people in different ways. And particularly when we talk of finances, it brings in the aspect of it's cutting across various sectors of our general wellness as individuals. So I'm excited to have you here, Dr. Nancy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, and so for those who don't know you or are familiar with your work, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. So my name is Dr. Nancy Mupinga. I'm a psychiatrist at the University Teaching Hospital. I am the founder of Maverick Minds. So this is a men's mental health non-government organization. And the reason behind the formation of this organization was because of the gap that I saw during my practice. So I have a lot of clients that would come in female in nature, but then some of the issues that they come with are issues to do with a home, in general. So I always wondered, what about the men? If they are struggling in this area, what's happening with the men at home? And so because of that, that's how Maverick Minds was born. And basically it's there to address men's mental health needs as well as sexual and reproductive health needs, because sexual and reproductive health is a huge thing when it comes to the men. And
Yeah.
so what we're trying to do is create a safe space where men can freely talk about their mental health struggles without feeling stigmatized or discriminated, and as well just find a safe brotherhood, I can so say, where they can be able to receive mentorship, networking opportunities, and just a lot of other things that we have offered for the men.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. And we will get to talk a lot more about the work that you're doing with your NGO. But just talking about you again, how did you find yourself working in the mental health space?
So, like, sometimes I even fail to answer that question directly because it wasn't a thing that I had intentionally thought about during my time in medical school. So during my time in medical school, I initially wanted to be a pediatric surgeon because I said, well, I want to help out the kids, the little ones, and all. But
Yeah.
then during my last rotation in surgery department, so most of the patients that I would see are those maybe like trauma victims who are brought in by the police. So they are known people, no family whatsoever. And others is maybe due to an issue of being intoxicated at the time of maybe a hit and run and the like. And
Yeah.
so I got interested really with these people to just get to learn that some of them were actually struggling with mental health issues. And I thought, well, this could be an area that I would try and venture in and see, what difference you can make. Because then these cases were like a lot, like nearly every day in the emergency room, there's always someone who's maybe been hit by a car because they're either intoxicated, or maybe someone who comes in because they're either in withdrawal of alcohol or they're taking in a substance. So there was just a lot of that at the time that I was in that department, and that's where my interest really came in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So for someone who is considering a career in the space that you're in, what advice would you give them?
Please get on it. We're a few of
Okay.
us, and
Really?
yeah, we're a few of us. There are very few psychiatrists in Zambia. Yeah,
Oh.
very few psychiatrists. According, I mean, in regards to the number, to the population, right? So right now,
Yeah.
even just a general doctor is like 1 to 12,000. That's huge. So now
Wow.
imagine a mental health case, of which most of us are actually struggling with mental health
Yeah.
issues. So others are more severe than others, but we need a lot of people that can venture as well in this field, so that the burden should actually be lessened on those that are practicing currently.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So to you in the audience, if you are considering a career in mental health, the doctor's advice is that you should go for it. So do you have any personal stories of yourself from a time when you had to break free from something? It may not necessarily be like a financial situation or addiction, but just in general, can you tell us about a time that you felt a sense of freedom from something?
Okay. One particular case that comes to mind is so I was this person, that was in the past year. So I was this person who always put other people's needs before mine, right? So that was the type of person that I was. So even people knew to say, if I want something, Nancy is the go-to person. Whatever
Yeah.
it is, it's like a yes. So I never had this no in my mouth. I never knew
Yeah.
when to say no to things and when to say yes. So it was always instantly a yes, a yes, a yes to everything.
Yes.
And despite also, it causing harm to me, I just felt like I needed, maybe this other person needed it more than I did, right? But then I
Yeah.
came to realize to say, takers really don't have any limits.
Yeah.
They'll keep taking, 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 even if it wasn't true that they needed that thing more than I did. And so I then learned to say no, right? So I learned to say no when it's necessary to say no. And it's just brought this sense of freedom where, well, it's something I wish I was able to, take this step years ago, because I just see
Yeah.
how I had to go through certain issues in life that I feel if I had just said no in the beginning, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have, it would have ended where it was. So yeah, that's one particular thing that really sticks out, when I think of something that I've broken free from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. And while it's not directly linked to finances, I think a lot of people find themselves in financially bad situations because they are not able to say no.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a lot of us are people pleasers.
Yeah.
So you find your friends want to hang out, but you know this hangout is at a bad time in the month or a bad time in your financial season, and you can't afford it,
Yeah.
but you don't want to let them down. So you
Nope.
just say yes, you go
Yeah.
along with it. Your family members want to ask you for something, you can't say no. Your friends want to take a vacation or a trip, you know you
Yeah.
can't afford
Yeah.
it, but because you just don't want to say no. So I'm glad to hear that you found your no. It's a very good boundary to
Yeah.
be able to set to just protect even your personal peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, on our icebreakers, when you're not practicing as a mental health profession, what's your favorite hobby or activity that you do just to keep your mind clear or balanced?
Okay. So I like to call myself a serial entrepreneur.
Okay.
Yeah, because I believe anything that has got that can give me money, whatever profit it is, like I can literally get on it.
Yeah.
So I like to defy. There's this famous saying like you can't be a jack of all trades because you probably not excel at anything.
Yes.
But then I like to challenge it and say, what if I became a jack of all trades and I excelled at everything that I did? Like, why do we always
Yeah.
have to
Why
think
should we
about the
limit?
negative? You want to excel, you
Yeah.
won't. But then what if you can?
Yeah.
And so in my free time, I'm into cosmetic and fragrance business, and yeah, it's something that I enjoy doing. So besides my work, I'm selling, I'm marketing this business, and it brings a little bit of more calm. You know,
Yeah.
looking at the type of work that I do, I like to say it's a high pressure job because it's
Yes.
not easy taking on other people's problems and really finding a balance between their problems and yours. Because sometimes you can have clients who come in with the exact struggles that you're having, but then
Yeah.
you have to be professional about it and be able to provide the service to this person. So getting back home to, dealing with customers, like a different space altogether where people are just, excited about what fragrance they want to get, what gift they want to give their loved ones. Like it really brings that calm to my life generally.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You're the first doctor I'm hearing about who's got this entrepreneurial mind. How did you find yourself finding a passion for entrepreneurship? You know, the typical doctor we know and watch in movies is like 24/7 thinking about work and their patients.
Yeah.
So I just want to know how you then had that flame ignited of entrepreneurship in you.
So I think it comes from home, right? So
Okay.
my parents have been there, like they were in the government and all, but then they still had that entrepreneur spirit to them. So they were always doing one or two things. Is it farming? Is it doing this and that? So as a young child, I always caught on, accompanying them to the farm and just engaging in, the activities that they used to engage in. And so growing up, I think it has always been there because I always used to find myself wherever, as I said, even if I can see a 2 kwacha profit that I can make, I always take that moves, buy, order, sell it to the next person. And then it
Yeah.
just went on and on. And one thing that I just like, as you said, like, you doctors are always thinking about, it's about the work 24/7. Yes, our job is very demanding. That I won't even lie. But for me, what I came to realize at a very early stage in my career, right, was how to strike a balance between work and this other side, this other life that I was having. So whenever it's time for work, I would give in my best. I would give in my 100%. And then when I'm off duty, then I'd always try now to nurture this other side of me. So just finding a balance, between your work, like literal work-life balance. Yeah. So if you're able to get a good hold of it, I mean, I'm doing it, so anyone out there can equally
Can
do
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really inspiring that you're able to tackle both your passion in terms of what you studied as well as your passion for entrepreneurship. Okay, so now we get straight into the heart of our discussion today. And when we talk about debt addiction, what do we mean exactly?
Okay. So I'll try to break it down simply for everyone to, to understand. So I'd first want to define what is debt. So we're talking about finances mostly here, right? So debt is basically borrowing money. So borrowing money, you borrow money, you owe someone a debt or you're indebted to someone. And then when you talk about addiction, what exactly is an addiction. So an addiction, it's a compulsive need or urge to either use a substance, right, or to engage in an activity which has negative consequences, but because of the thrill that it brings, you override or overlook those consequences, right? And so addiction, we can look at addiction as the main body, and it has got themes. So you can talk about debt being one of the themes for addiction. You can talk about shopping being one of the themes for addiction. You can talk about things like pornography being one of the things for addiction. You can talk about alcohol abuse being a theme. You can talk about gambling as a theme. So there are many themes that all fall under addiction. But then when you talk about debt addiction in its sense as one, so we're basically talking about an impulsive urge, right, to borrow money despite knowing the negative consequences that it has. So even though you don't need the money at that particular time, but you just have this constant urge to want to borrow money because it comes with this feeling of excitement. There's this euphoria that's tagged along with it when you know to say, okay, I'm borrowing money. Or maybe this is the last installment that I have. And then there's just that urge to want to borrow more. Haven't you noticed where maybe you have someone who's been struggling financially, and then maybe family comes out to help them out, and immediately they pay off their last debt, they're back like a week later. Then this person is telling you, no, this person, exactly, no, this person is owing me, like, but why are we receiving calls? I thought, I mean, after everything that you've gone through, you would, you know, kind of like learn from it. But then, it's also because of the feeling that comes to it. There's this excitement, really. So there's just a certain form of excitement that comes through just knowing that, you know, you're going out there to borrow money. And remember that dates also just don't happen there. You just don't wake up and say, I'm in debt now. No, it's a gradual process. So debt in its sense, right? Debt in its sense without the addiction. Well, okay, say there's good and bad debt. So there's good debt. So in a case where you're borrowing money to maybe settle a certain issue, maybe that arose, it was an emergency, and all that, I think that's good debt because you have a plan, a repayment plan, and that's okay. But then when you talk about the bad debt now, which leads to addiction, it's something that gradually forms up. So you first start with the normal process. I'm just getting a loan from the bank because I want to do one or two things. That's okay. You get that loan, you have a repayment plan in place, and you go ahead, repay, and it's done. The next time you're increasing because now you know you have the capacity to repay the loan. So next time, if you got a 50,000, next time you're getting 100,000. And then it's 200,000. Before you know it, it's 500,000. And then now you find that you start having challenges with repaying this money. But despite having these challenges, if you can't get from the bank, you go to the microfinance. Next, you go to people. And at the end of the day, you find you're owing the bank, you're owing the microfinance. There, you know, well, things are now bad. You're actually addicted to debt, which is boring, by the way.
So for some people, they might not even be aware, you know, because obviously when you're in that situation, you're probably justifying it to yourself like, oh, this was necessary. I couldn't have survived without borrowing this money. Or maybe they started out, like you said, they're trying to deal with an emergency, or they have a business idea, then it doesn't work out, right? Then they have to keep borrowing to sustain that. So how do I know if I'm just, you know, genuinely borrowing money, or if it has fallen into an addiction? And not just for me, but for the people around me. Because personal finances are like so personal. You might not even know, right? But are there signs that you can be able to tell that, okay, someone is addicted, or myself, I'm addicted to debt?
I like the fact that you said myself, because most of the times, especially when you're talking about issues like this, it's always us projecting the next person, right? Like, oh, the other person is in debt, or but then we don't like self-introspect and just check where we are at exactly. So there are signs that can tell one or alert someone that they are either they're now addicted to debt, or maybe is it someone that you know who might be addicted to debt. So some of the signs that you have to look out for are things where someone is constantly borrowing, right? so let's talk about maybe loans. So borrowing loans either the bank or through from individuals, even though they don't need the money, they don't have use for the money. So someone just has formed a habit of borrowing money, even when they don't need it. So it's not like I'm borrowing because I want to offset off something or want to attend to this emergency. Even when everything is okay, they just have that urge to just borrow money. Yeah. So that way you would know that someone is tipping into a debt addiction. Because even when you ask them, it's okay, this money that you intend to borrow, what do you want to use it for? They'll tell you, no, I don't know. I just want to have money lying around.
Yeah.
But then why not just not borrow and, try and save up for whatever it is that you want? So they don't even have a clear path of what they want to use that money for. So they are just compelled to do what? To borrow. And that's one sign of a borrowing addiction.
Yeah.
And the other sign also that you can look for someone who's borrowing, so someone who hides their spending. So here's a person who goes out to purchase things, and the moment they come back, they're hiding their receipts. Or if you ask them, where did you go? And they're telling you, oh no, I just went by the market, because they realize that they now have an issue with this debt, but then they're unable to confront this issue that's there. So it's easy for them to just try and hide away from accountability, if you can so say. And so they won't disclose to say, look, I've been spending, or I borrowed money to buy this and this and this. And so they'll be hiding all their spending and all their financials. And then also a person who has got debt, right? But then they're unable to make their payments on time. So with every debt, be it a loan, there's always a repayment plan. But then when you find that a person is unable to make their repayments on time, they're falling back, more or less like defaulting on their loans. That is a cry to say, look, you're unable to manage your debt now. So remember, in the beginning, someone would get debt because they're able to manage to manage how to repay it. But this time around, it's very hard for them to repay, and it even goes on to affect even their basic financial responsibilities, be it in the home or something. So that caused, for an alarm to say you are not managing your debt well. You might actually be in a debt addiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it possible for me to identify this addiction in myself?
For some, that calls for self-awareness. Yeah. For others, it calls for self-awareness. But remember, I said that others you would identify, but then the issue is, are you able to acknowledge that you're actually in this addiction? So acknowledging is one of the main issues that plays a huge role. So you can identify and say, okay, yes, I have this, but then can you acknowledge that you're actually in a debt crisis? And then also you find there's this whole vicious circle where you are borrowing money to pay back another loan. So if I borrowed money from you, and then I come to you, I go to the next person, borrow money, pay back. So it's like I keep going on borrowing to just repay other loans. So that on its own can be that's a sign that you're not managing your debt well. You could be addicted.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what are the consequences of me being addicted to debt?
So the consequences are vast, but I'll just want to probably highlight most of the common ones that we get to face, right? So when you talk about the consequences, it could be either a consequence on your emotional stability. It can either be on your mental faculty, or it can even be on your relationships overall. So the constant stress that comes with having debt can lead you to feelings of hopelessness, because here it is, you have this huge debt, you don't even know how you're going to handle it. So you'd feel there's no way out, you're hopeless about it, and you're just feeling, you have this constant guilt that you carry around. So that's one of the consequences that this debt would bring up. And also mental health illnesses. So things like depression, things like anxiety disorders are things that can stem out of having debt. It causes a toll on your emotions, such that these signs start manifesting physically and not just emotionally. So remember, we're talking about the mental side, where you have the depression, the anxiety disorders, but then now you have physical symptoms like headache. You have physical symptoms like insomnia. You're failing to sleep because you're always thinking, where am I
Yes.
going to get the money to pay back? And
Yeah.
for some creditors, you find 04, they're busy calling you, I want my money, I
Oh,
want my money.
wow.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you don't really have that peace. And so it starts to manifest physically. So it's in others, it might manifest mentally, where you
Yeah.
have the depression, the anxiety, the constant stress. But with others, it can just be physical symptoms. And that's why even when we're going in the workplace, we always say when a client comes, don't just think about the physical things that you can see. Also consider the emotional stuff, because someone can
Yes.
come and say, I'm having stomach issues, right? I'm having digestive problems. And you're thinking, oh, because it's digestion, oh, let's go and do that ultrasound, let's go and do this, let's go do a scan, let's go and do this, all these things. But when the tests come out, everything is okay. But this person is constantly having these struggles. So that's when you think, okay, what about if there's something that's psychological in nature? So yeah, and then also a strain on the relationships, right? So you'd find that a person who is in debt, let's say if it's a couple, right?
Yeah.
So if one of the partners is addicted to debt, they'll definitely hide, things like how they're spending from their spouse.
Yes.
That's something that we call financial infidelity. So they'll be
Okay.
hiding their spending. They'll be hiding how they're using money, right? And then this causes mistrust in that relationship, and eventually it will lead to a lot of conflict in that marriage. If it's on a personal level, whether friends, family, think of a situation, and we've heard a lot about it. People say, if you want to maintain a friendship,
Yeah.
do not
Going
go and give
to.
your friend money,
Yes.
because the moment that you give them money is the moment that your friendship dies, because you always be
Yeah.
chasing after the money, the money, the money, and then you
Yes.
can't just retain to that. So it also causes a strain, on family ties, on just general relationships.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it impacts so many different things, and
Yeah.
that it may even lead to other mental health related issues as well as physical symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to learn that. And I think the thing with addiction, just speaking as a layperson, obviously I'm not an expert, is that in the moment it just feels like it makes you feel so good that you don't realize now the negative things that it's doing.
Yeah.
So I think the awareness is what would really help someone, especially if someone else cannot be able to see those things, because like you have mentioned, sometimes they're hiding these debt that they have, so you might not know. So I think that person needs to identify this problem within themselves and at least get help.
Yeah.
So when this person comes to you, right, what are the steps that you help them in order to start their healing journey?
Okay. So some of the first steps that we do. So if I have a client who comes in and they have this huge debt, and I think one thing that I forgot to mention also was that apart from things like depression and anxiety,
Yeah.
suicidal thoughts are also on the
Oh,
rise.
yes.
Yes. So I think in the recent past, most of the deaths that were recorded, deaths by suicide, when you
Yes.
really look into the matter, it was always like, financial issues. So no,
Oh,
there's a nurse
wow.
decide she committed because there's
Yes.
debt.
Too much
There's
debt.
too much debt, yes.
Yes.
So that's one of also like the emergent thing that comes like as a consequence of
Yeah.
actually being in debt. So
Yes.
suicide, like these suicidal thoughts are always lingering, because then you feel, well, where am I going to go? Where am I going to get help? Or how am I going to offset this loan? So I'll give an example. If someone, because you've been to a lot of micro lending companies, you've been to banks, so your payslip is, I don't know if they call it red, right?
Yeah.
And then you're probably taking home maybe 1,000 kwacha.
Yes.
And then your debt is amounting to maybe 300,000 kwacha. Like, look,
Yeah.
300,000
What
kwacha
do you
in
mean?
1,000. Exactly. Like, where is this money going to come from?
Yeah.
And worse off if it's even like for the males, because I think for the females, we're a little bit more expressive. So you'll be able to tell a friend, you'll be able to tell someone, confide someone. But then here's a male who's in that situation. Who is he going to go to, right? So it
Yeah.
feels like the world is just shutting. There's no way out. I've let myself down. I've left my family down. So the next thing that you're going to get, oh no, this person died by suicide. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really is something that's challenging, but then also the realization to know, like, I'm in this space, but then where can I get help? So if someone of that nature comes through, the first thing is to know, are they aware of the situation that they're in, right?
Yeah.
Are they aware that they're in this cycle of debt?
Yeah.
And then do they also acknowledge that they're in the cycle? Because others would give, no, the reason why I'm in this thing is because, no, my family did this. I was supposed to take out a loan for who. So even that process of denial kind of like blocks the whole helping process. But for someone who acknowledges to say, look, yes, I've made bad financial decisions. I have this urge. Sometimes I even borrow even when I don't have. Even though I know that I have so much debt, I still go on. As long as there's a person who's ready to provide money, I'll get that money despite not even knowing how I'm going to pay back. So first thing is to access this person and say, are they knowledgeable about, you know, this situation that they're in, and do they acknowledge that, yes, I'm in this situation? And then from there, you now start finding steps really to address this debt they're in. So how many people are you owing? How much are you owing? What's the plan?
Yeah.
So most of the time, we're not there to give solutions to say, no, so this is what you should do or not. No, the solution really has to come from within. Yes, okay, you owe so much and so many people. What is your plan? What do you think? No, I don't have a plan. I don't. No, just think through. So what is it at your disposal, for instance, that you can do to help you offset this loan? There's someone who probably tell you, you know what, I think I'm driving a Ford Ranger, and so like, okay, how much does a Ford Ranger cost? I didn't suggest to say you go and sell your Ford Ranger, but I'm just helping you open up your mind to say you've got probably assets within your disposal that, you know, you can offset to be able to offset off this debt. Yeah.
Okay.
So we just help through. We just help the client, you know, to really find the solutions that they're looking for. Because most of the time, trust me, they already know what they need to do, but they just need someone to listen and, you know, just say, okay, agree with them and say, okay, I think you're in a right thinking frame. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And true to what you said, I think even in my interactions with people that are struggling, as a financial coach, I find as well that you're just helping them navigate through solutions they already have, right? They probably already know that, okay, this house I'm living in, I could downgrade in order to manage my debt.
Exactly.
But they need someone else to help them see that angle. So that's really good that you put it that way. Do you think there's any reason why it's so hard for someone to get away from this debt, even though it's got all these consequences that you've mentioned? Why is it so hard for people to break free?
Okay. So I'll just go back to the initial definition of what an addiction is, right?
Yeah.
So I said an addiction is a compulsive need to either engage in an activity or maybe use of a substance, despite knowing the harmful effects that that's going to bring about.
Yeah.
So it's not entirely that someone is really in that moment, someone is maybe just being deliberate about it, say, no, I want to be using a substance, or I just want to be borrowing. No. But then there's a feeling, right? This type of excitement or euphoria that comes with wanting to borrow, which is the addiction. Yes. So they are looking for a high, if I can so say. So if I'm going to bring it down to be more practical to maybe someone who uses illicit drugs, so whether the cocaines and the heroines. So a person will know that these drugs are not good for my, for my health. But then I think we all wanted to say, but then these guys, they know that these things are not good for the health. But then why do they keep going? So it's because of that high. So there's a reward pathway in the brain, right? Which is activated, by the use of these issues. So you find that they're always looking and chasing for that high. So the same way that someone takes alcohol and they tell you maybe this is a quiet person and they take alcohol and then they become very vocal. So they're looking for that feeling. And so it's very hard on your own to just say, you know what, I quit. There are people that would tell you, okay, I quit alcohol today. You're like, oh, okay, that's okay. For some, they do manage. But then for others, you'd find that after two weeks or so, they relapse. Why? Because it's not like, how do I put it? it's not like you're kind of like in control, right? Yeah, it's like there's just this urge to do something. So you're kind of like not in control. And that is why you need help. You need someone to help you break free from that urge that you have. Yeah. So that's why it's hard, because for some, maybe others do manage, but for most people, they find it very difficult because on their own they can't. So you'd say, okay, I'm not going to borrow, and then the next time that this is your last payment and they're excited about it, before you know it, it's business as usual. They're back because they just really can't control that age, and that's why you need either a professional or a family member that you're talking to really just try and understand where all this is coming from, and just maybe bring you in a different light on how to handle either your finances and all.
I like how you've talked about where this is coming from, right? Are there certain people who are prone to falling into debt addiction, or is there something which triggers it? Because sure, we are talking about how we can heal from or break from, but what about if I want to prevent myself? Like, is there something I can do, or are there just some people who are bound to get into this kind of addiction?
Yeah. So I can't say that there are people that are prone to getting into this addiction as per se, right? So I'll give a scenario. So here's a person who has a gambling problem. Remember, we talked
Yeah.
about addictions. So
Yes.
debt is just one of the forms of addiction.
Yeah.
So here's a person who has a gambling addiction, a person who has a substance, addiction, and yeah, the list goes on. So this type of a person, it's very easy, right? They're at high risk of actually getting into a debt addiction, right?
Oh, wow.
Remember the film? So they have a gambling addiction, they have this other addiction. So even with the debt, it's very easy for them to do that. But then for a person who doesn't have a prior addiction, so to say, remember how addiction started, how the whole debt addiction started, right?
Yes.
At first it starts out as normal. So it can
Yes.
happen to anyone. And that's the thing, is then it's not like there's a target group specifically, despite those that already have existing, addictions. But for the others who don't have a prior addiction, it will just start normally. So it can even be myself. I'm right here and I'm probably struggling with a debt addiction. But you can't
Yes.
tell, right?
Yeah.
Because we've painted, say only these people are prone to that. So it's
Yes.
because of the nature. I remember I said it's a gradual process. So I don't think anyone really, wakes up and says, I want to be in debt. No.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So you first start by, you borrow and you feel, okay, I can pay back. You borrow, you're offsetting it, you borrow, and then now it becomes a vicious cycle where you can't pay and you have to borrow from one person to the next, just for you to be able to kind of like get some sanity from the person who's really, on your neck. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, a number of people may not struggle with debt addiction. A good number of us struggle with impulse buying. We struggle with living way beyond our means.
Yeah.
Are there any strategies that we can use, psychological strategies, to help us manage these behaviors? Because I've heard some people say, okay, for me, every time I am in town or at the mall, I can't resist. I just have to spend something. Even if I've told myself I'm just going to ShopRite to get sugar, I can't resist buying something else or buying myself shoes. I just have so many shoes, but I just can't avoid that impulse purchase. Or the lifestyle, living above our means just because someone has something, you're like, I also want to have it, even though you can't afford it. Is there any strategy that you can help us to use?
Yeah. So what you're explaining seems more like a shopping addiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A shopping addiction where so when you look at a shopping addiction like in relation with a debt addiction, so someone would say in order for you to shop, you obviously should have a debt addiction, but these are totally different. Yeah, thin line, but then they're totally different. So when you talk about I'll start with the debt addiction, right? So with a debt addiction, the motivation is to borrow. to borrow money, regardless whether you want to use it, you don't want to use it, but the motivation is to borrow because, as I said, it comes with there's a certain level of fulfillment and excitement that comes with just borrowing money, right? So that's a debt addiction. Then with the shopping addiction, the motivation is to own new stuff, new accessories, new this. So the way you say that, to say a person can have maybe even a whole room like this full of shoes, but even when they step out, they'll come back with another shoe, because that urge is just there, like they just want to buy something. So it's not an issue of, no, I want to borrow money so that I can buy, but you can even track to say, where is this money going? It's on spending.
Yes.
So haven't you ever seen people that would tell you to say, oh, I borrowed such and such amount of money, and then when you ask them, okay, this is huge. What did you do? What did you spend it on? And they have nothing to show. Like literally nothing. They can't even produce one thing. Like, look, you can't borrow like, a 500,000 and you don't have anything to show for it. Well, so that person most likely has a debt addiction. But then with a person with a shopping addiction, oh wow, you'd see where the money has been, like where money has gone to. So you see all these new purchases that have come through. So what strategies? I think the first thing that will come to mind for me is self-awareness, really. Self-awareness is very important. So when we talk about self-awareness, we're not talking much about, the emotional intelligence and all, but then self-awareness. Who are you as an individual, right? Who are you and where are you exactly? So I cannot spend more than I earn. Right? So this thing of living above your means is because we always want to compare ourselves to the next person. But then people will tell you to say, maybe what the next person is spending is actually their profits, while you are using your capital. So being able to know where you're at exactly financially, I think that's where it starts from. Where are you financially? Are you able to afford the kind of lifestyle that you want to engage in? Are you content with what you have? So it's okay to be at a lower level today while working to get to the next level where you can afford everything. But then the moment you want to start looking like Betha, because Betha drives this, because Betha does that, and you know very well that, you and Betha are not in the same tax bracket. That's where people now fall into this whole debt, because you have to borrow in order to keep up appearances. You gave an example earlier on where your friends call you out to say, let's go and hang out. And you know that, probably in your injury week, then the money that you have, you probably want to buy, food stuff at home to sustain you till payday. But because you don't want to seem like the one who's broke in the group, you will just go spend your last money, and next is, can I have, I'll pay you month end. And when month end comes, honestly, your money is all gone because you just use it forward. So being content and knowing who you are and where you're at financially. So everything takes time, right? Like we should always, people say, does the process know that we're trusting it? But trust the process, right? So if you're not there yet, it's okay to be where you are, and acknowledge to say, right now, I can't afford this certain lifestyle. And so with what I have, I'm going to be content with this, but I'll work hard so that I can be able to afford what I really, really want.
Okay. Most of the time when I'm doing financial coaching and I'm telling people, just draw up a budget, track your expenses, they tell me that is hard. It is boring. Why should I count every penny? So I always struggle now with that, because my solution to you is to budget, is to track. But the moment you start saying it's hard, I feel lazy, why should I do it? It's like we need to take that responsibility, because obviously those people who are living successfully and managing their finances, I don't think it just comes by chance. Obviously, they're doing some work, right? So we all have to have that awareness to say, this is the action that needs to be taken to correct this behavior, to identify your triggers even. So if you're always at the shops and that's where your trigger is, maybe you need to just use online so that you just put in your cart only that one thing. You are not in that space which is making you, get triggered.
That's
so
true.
Now I remember we talked a little bit about how sometimes people are going through these financial addictions and they keep it to themselves, right? Because they feel so much guilt. Some of them feel shame.
Yeah.
So how do you handle the shame? I remember a story recently of someone who was telling me that she had seen a very nice business idea. She mentioned it to her sister and to her brother-in-law. They invested in this business idea.
Okay.
And so when they invested their monies, unfortunately, that business idea
Oh,
didn't go
wow.
through.
Wow.
So now she lost her money and their money, and she's dealing with so much shame. So now I want to understand, like, how do you heal from the shame and guilt of your bad financial decisions, especially when it starts making you feel like you're a person of failure?
Okay. So, that's a sad story, first of all. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's a sad spot for anyone to be in.
yeah.
So like in her case, right? So she understands that she made a bad financial move.
Decision, yeah.
Yeah, so she was either scammed or yeah, things like that. But then the first step honestly for her to take is she needs to be kinder to herself first before
Okay.
even focusing on the sister and the external parties that are involved. She needs to
Yeah.
be kinder to herself because it'll be very hard for her to start healing if
Mm-hmm.
she's always blaming herself for what happened.
Yeah.
So that decision was made, things didn't go as planned, and we can't reverse the situation. But
Yes.
then in trying to look for solution, what's next, it first starts with her,
Yeah.
right? She needs to accept to say, okay, I made this decision and all that, but then how do I get out of it?
Yeah.
Stop feeling pity for yourself. It's okay, a day, two, a week, that's fine. But then don't allow yourself to just be down there. So what's the next
Mm-hmm.
step from here? So be kind to yourself. Because one thing that I've realized that when, especially with those issues, whether finances, anything to do with like, mental health and the like, we always show a lot of grace to other people. So if it was someone who was, if let's say the reverse was true, if
Yeah.
maybe it's her sister who was in that situation, should probably be kinder to the sister. You know what? I know these things happen. It wasn't your fault. But she can't
Yeah.
extend that grace to
To
herself.
herself.
And that's the worst case. And that is
Yeah.
why you find a lot of people take time to heal, even to reach out for help, because they are so they blame themselves, they're so hard on themselves, and they don't extend the same grace that extend to others onto themselves. So the first
Yeah.
thing is, let her be kinder to herself.
Yeah.
Because when she's now kinder to herself, it will open up opportunities or doors where now she's able to seek professional help. She's able to probably sit down with the family and just say, you know what, I brought you into this issue. The
Mm-hmm.
business didn't go as planned, but then what can I do next? So can we make up maybe a repayment plan? Like how am I
Yeah.
going to repay? Because I'm sure maybe they haven't even talked about those ways. So
Yes.
she's more clearer now, and you can now sit down and say, okay, how best can I pay you? From what I have, I can only afford so much of money for this amount of time. If I have a house, or maybe you can get my house. And it's easy to kind of like just try and find solutions from there. But then now you can't have that talk because you're just thinking, no, I'm the one who did this. I'm the one, I lost this. So even if that, maybe those siblings are having issues, for instance, be it
Mm-hmm.
marital, or maybe a child dropped out of school. So no, it's my fault because of the money that I invested. So
Yes.
let's show more grace to
To
ourselves. So even those
ourselves.
that are listening out there, show more grace to yourself. The same grace that you extend to people when they are in the wrong or they make bad decisions. First, also start by extending it to yourself. Self-compassion is very important. And then things will be a little bit more clearer, and then you'll be able to get help to navigate whatever situation that you're in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm thinking as you are talking about those people who feel like, yes, they've made bad financial decisions, but it's because they have to support their families. There are these uh, situations which come up whereby maybe you get your salary, it's 5,000 kwacha, but you need to support your aging parents. You need to send them money every month. At the same time, you've got maybe nieces and nephews that need financial support with their education. You've got some people in the village, you need to help them with money for their upkeep. because they say this is Africa, so we can't run away from Ubuntu. We need to take care of each other, right? But what do I do if I keep falling into debt or bad financial decisions because of the constant pressure, the constant pressure to support my family, even though I cannot afford to do it?
That's a lot. That's a lot to take in for one person, right?
Yeah.
But as you said, the way our culture is black tax, Ubuntu. When you don't support, then you are raised by the village raised you, and now that you're making money, you don't want to support people. But I think things have times have changed, right? Like even right now, you can see the cost of living is high. So I'm here thinking, wow, 5,000. How? Like how are you even surviving as an individual?
Yeah.
You get it. But then I think there just comes a time when you have to be honest with yourself and even with all these everyone who's depending on you. And also prioritize like make your priorities known. So if I have aging parents, definitely my parents are going to be a priority, right?
Yes.
And if I can't support someone in the village, or I have to have to what extent can I stretch?
Yes.
So okay, 5,000. Let me try and break it down. 5,000. I need to pay my rent. Maybe it's 1,000. I definitely need food for the month. Maybe it's another 1,000. I have 3,000 left. I need to send it to back to my parents. Then I have a 2,000, maybe 1,500 for emergency,
Yes.
and then I have 1,500 left. So that 1,500 should be able to sort out one or two people. So if it means you can only support one person, then that's the only person that it will support. So you need to be true to yourself. To what length can you go, or to what length can you stretch? Because most of the time, what I've realized is that we're so much into sorting out other people's responsibilities, such that we forget our own responsibilities.
Yeah.
So you can find that maybe that child, or who's in the village is supposed to go to school, has got parents who have cattle. So why aren't you selling off one cattle to send the child to school? But because Nancy is in the city now, she should be able to do that. And is it my direct responsibility? It's not.
No.
So you just have to reach a point where you're honest with yourself. You just have to be honest, because the more that you keep stretching, remember, takers don't have limits, right? And they don't even care about what your mental state is.
Or what you remain with.
Or
you,
what
you
you're
remain
with.
having to borrow just
Exactly,
to survive.
just to survive. But then they could also borrow where they are, or or do other things.
Yes.
So it starts with you being honest with yourself. How far can you stretch? Who can you help? Who can you assist? And if you can't, it's okay to say no. Again, you see the power of saying no when it's important. You tell them, unfortunately, this month I'm unable to support you, but I'll see maybe if I have extra funds next month. But also it goes to things of, are you even thinking about having a side hustle? Not me, because I mean, the salary that I'm getting is probably for me, it's enough. But then you who needs help, what are you doing? Like, are you just sitting around waiting for money? Or what are other things that you can do? What are activities that you can engage in that can give you a little bit of money to finance whatever responsibilities that you have? So I think also us who usually give out money in terms of black tax, we kind of enable this whole borrowing behavior, or this asking behavior, because we make it seem like we have it all sorted out. And so people don't know that we're actually working in order to provide or extend this provision to them. But the moment that you tell them to say, this is where my limit is, and then what can you do? Are you going to start maybe farming some sweet potatoes, or can I send money? What gap have you seen in the village, in the community where you're in, that can bring in extra money? And I think that's a better way, because remember, the more that you keep giving someone fish, you have to feed them for the rest of their lives. But then teach them how to fish, and even when you're not there, they'll continue fishing.
Manage. Okay, that's really true. I mean, it's a tough conversation to have. I know it's not easy to just be able to express that you are not able to support family. But it's something we need to start doing if we are to make sure that we also don't find ourselves in a position where our children are our retirement plan. So it's like we have to protect our own assets. Because what I find is if you are not able to say no, you keep on borrowing because you need to support your family. Yourself, you will have nothing. At retirement, you probably have a lot of debt to pay.
Yeah,
Using your
true.
pension, you will pay off that debt, and now you have nothing, and you'll be dependent on your children.
Yeah.
And we continue that cycle. Instead of a cycle of generational wealth, now it's generational debt. Yeah. So we need to really work hard and have those difficult conversations just to protect our own financial future.
Just one,
Yeah.
just one comment on that. So this is
Yeah.
something that is very practical for me.
Okay.
So I think earlier when I told you, like, I have a side business that I do.
Yes.
And this I've made it very clear. Like, I can even confidently say it anywhere. Like, because I've told my family this. I said, the side business that I do, it's basically, selling, right?
Yes.
Selling stuff. So is it cosmetics and whatnot? So I told my family to say, the only time that you can ask me for money is when the government pays me, because that salary that's coming is because of my expertise as a doctor. And so because you're not yet, I mean, you can go to med school, but right now you're not yet in med school. So if I get paid and you ask for money and I feel like I can have, I can extend that to you. But the money that I make from my side business, no one can, like, you don't even have to
your
ask.
money.
It's my money. Because the things that I do to make that money, anyone can do it. So I've just made an exception for for my parents.
Understand.
Yeah, because I mean, but then even with my elder sister, like, she knows this. If it's mid-month, they call it injury week, and she tells me, no, Nancy, I just said, my guy, government hasn't paid this money. I have the money that you're talking about, but I can't give you. Why? Because what I do to make this money, you can also do it. So if you don't have it right now, it's because you made a choice not
to have it.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, that's very wise of you. I've also heard some people who do the opposite. Is what they do is their main salary is for them, it's for saving, investing, and spending at home. And then they've got a side hustle. For example, they've built a house that's on rent. So whatever money that is coming as rent from that, that's what they use to support their family. So all those issues that come up with their family is not coming directly from their salary, it's coming from the house that they've put on rent. So in that way, you are not always having to dig into your pockets, borrow money to attend to family emergencies. You already have something on standby. So it's good that even while we can have those difficult conversations, we also just make a plan on how we'll, because we can't run away. Eventually you have to support, but it's like you said, to what extent are you going to support, and which people are you going to prioritize? You can't support every single extended family, but if you decide it's your parents and maybe a niece or a nephew you take to school, let it be that. And also, sometimes what I find with this black tax thing is we don't even coordinate. You get what I mean? It's you sending money, your siblings sending money, whereas if you sat down and you agree, okay, me, I'll be contributing towards our parents' food. For me, it will be towards their health care. For me, it will be towards their fertilizer. Because sometimes you find that one sibling who's like a breadwinner is carrying all that burden. And the others will send maybe 100 kwacha when they feel like, when there's a funeral, there's only a particular, family that will contribute. So we need to be sitting down and even having these discussions to say, okay, our parents are aging. How are we all going to contribute? And for us, because we are having this season of our lives, we can only support up to this extent, and others can come in and not take it up yourself alone. Every month you're the only one borrowing, every month you're the only one struggling. Okay, anyway, black tax, I always feel like it's a controversial but important topic that we need to talk about more. Because if we don't talk about it, like you said, we'll end up with generational debt. So when we come back to the topic of overcoming debt addiction, right? What role do you see support playing in terms of like your therapist or a support group in someone's ability to just overcome or heal from this addiction?
Okay. So the role that support plays. So support ideally should start from your home setting, right? That's because they're the people that you're mostly found with. So if you're able to, if you have that relation where you can freely open up and say, look, this is what it is. I ventured into a business and my business is not going well. Or even if it's an already existing business. And
Yeah.
I mean, we're hearing this is not even something to run away from. But we're seeing a lot of businesses currently closing down. And I mean, this has an impact, again, to the end user who's like, the family, the children, and all those things. So if you're able to sit down and have those conversations, because again, financial issues, I don't know, for some reason now in their homes they're very uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
So you can find one partner who's struggling and the other partner does not even know that this person is struggling.
Yes.
Right. So you have a man, maybe he's a business person or even just work related. So he's got a lot of debt and he's bringing home very little to no money, but then he can't even open up to the wife to say, look, this is what's going on, this is where we're at financially, and that's what's causing this person to go out there, start borrowing just to keep up appearances. So the home setup has to be the safe space, the first safe space where someone who's battling with this debt addiction should be able to find comfort, right? And support. So, okay, this is what's going on. How can we help? So if it's an issue of extended family, again, it goes back to how much are you owing? Who are you owing? Can we have like a repayment plan? Okay, I think, okay, this family is able to contribute so much, this person, but do they also realize that this is an addiction and they want to get help, right?
Yeah.
Because you can, we talked about it, you can offset that date. The next day they go and bring in a new date, which is probably even higher than the last one.
Yes.
So family support is very important because it helps this person feel that love, right? And just the general support to overcome this situation that they're in. Because again, the person might be feeling helpless, might be feeling this, might be walking around with this guilt, this shame, that they've failed their family and all those things because of this debt that they're having. But then if home people are telling you to say, look, yes, you made a bad decision or you didn't calculate your risk well, but then we are going to get through it. It's not about you, but we're going to get through it as a family.
Yeah.
And then you sit and you're brainstorming. It gives a sense of relief and hope because this person might have lost hope. So it gives that hope back to say, you know what, I have my family support. And if maybe I do one or two things, I can be able to get out of it. And with the professionals, for those that may not have that strong support system at home, because sometimes our families are our biggest triggers to even some of the things that we end up doing. So you get home and instead of them providing that support and that understanding, they just start blaming you. But what did you do this? What did you do this? And all. So when you go to a professional and you're able to open up and they'll help you to navigate. So where there were those cloudy judgments of maybe I should just end my life, maybe I should just do this, maybe I should just do this, that therapist comes in now to help provide that support for you to see a lot things more clearer and to find the solutions, as we talked about, that are already within yourself. Because there's always something, we always have a solution to whatever problem we have. Sometimes it just takes someone to help you, unearth that solution. Otherwise, it's always there within us. There's no one who doesn't have a solution to a problem that they're going through. We all have it. It just takes one person probably who is more open-minded, who is positive enough to be able to make you realize to say, no, but then there's this that you can actually do to get out of this. So family support, very, very important. And so if there are those people that probably have relations who are struggling with date, it's not time now to start shaming them. It's not time to now start judging them, asking them, but what did you do with all that amount of money? And they're like, no, it's time for you to, what they need from you right now is your support, knowing that they can rely on you for support and just help navigate through the situation that they're in.
Okay. So now I just want to take you a little bit back to just this previous question. When we talk about support, we've talked about like from the family, right? But when we also talk about like support from your therapist, I'm just wondering, where do I start from? Every time I think about mental health, all I'm thinking about is going to Chinama, and I'm not sure what it's like, but the story that I'm sold about Chinama is like, people running around, big chest to make sure that they calm down and all that stuff. And if I'm struggling with a debt addiction, how do I even start the healing process? Where can I go? Who can I contact? Is it covered under NEMA? Like, I just want to know, where do I start from?
Yeah. So first of all, to demystify things about Chainama. So Chainama, yes, it's a mental health institution, the
Yeah.
biggest in Zambia. It's been here for years and years and years. But then it's not just a place where you find people running around,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So that's a myth. It's not a fact.
Okay.
So Chainama has got wards for inpatient care, but
Okay.
also outpatient department. So with the outpatient department, you have, general doctors, the specialists, the mental health specialists that are attending to the, mental health needs, as well as people like the counselors and the psychologists. So these are people that are doing your counseling and psychotherapy at a more advanced level, and even just the doctors that are seeing you if you have a mental illness. So it's not all just running and all. So you can literally, if you identify and say, okay, with everything that we've talked about, what are some of the signs of if you could be having, like a debt addiction? And if
Yes.
you're seated out there and you feel like, okay, but then most of these things that were being said, this is exactly what, what I see from myself or what I go through, or maybe some that I see from my next person, you can walk to Chainama. So just the way we go to any other hospital, if you're having a headache, severe headache, or people say, oh, I'm feeling malaria.
Yeah.
However it is that you're going to present, you can still walk to Chainama and then tell them exactly how you're feeling. And then from there, you're an outpatient. If you need to be seen by a psychologist, you'll be seen by a psychologist and you go home. You won't meet any person who's running around, right? Yes. So it doesn't mean when you go to Chainama, then you're going to automatically be an inpatient. No, the outpatient services, the way that the general medical units have the outpatient department. You walk in, you see your doctor. If there's need for medication to be prescribed, you're prescribed and you go out. That's it. You're not admitted. So the same with Chainama. Outpatient department, you go there if it's maybe depression, if it's a mild form of depression and you don't need medication, you'll be assigned a psychologist who will be following you up for a duration, maybe 6-12 months, depending on the progress of your sessions and your treatment. And then that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Is it covered under NEMA?
Under NEMA, that one I'm not so sure.
Okay, we can confirm that.
If it's covered under NEMA. But remember, even mental health illnesses, right? Just like any physical illness. So it's the same if I have malaria, I have to be attended to. So even here, if let's say you feel you've got depression, it's a government place, and so it's more or less like it's a service that the hospital provides. So mostly with the NEMAs and stuff, maybe unless if you go maybe to a private hospital, then now because they have to bring in a consultant. But then Chainama, those are specialists there, so that's the job that they're doing. So you don't even need that NEMA coverage. So you just go there and you'll be seen.
Okay, so you talked about the signs, but I'm thinking about for other mental health issues. The reason why our impression of Chainama is people running up and down because of, I think most people are taken there for mental health issues when it's quite advanced, right? So when we now come to debt addiction, at what point do I say, okay, I need to now go to Chainama to receive treatment?
Okay, so at a time when debt becomes, if I'm going to say, becomes a nuisance in your life, it starts making you less functional. So for instance, you're unable to sleep well because you're constantly thinking about this date, right? So you're always worried, like you're even anxious about probably opening up your phone, like switching on your phone, because there are messages that are coming. You're scared of answering a call. If it's a strange number, you're even scared of answering because it might be someone, who you're owing. So when debt comes to a point where you can't manage it and it starts to affect your other functionalities, then
you need to get help.
You need to get help. So it's either you talk to people at home if you feel they can't provide that support. The moment you realize that you're failing to manage your debt and it's causing constant strain on your emotions as well as your mental health, that's the best time to
seek
seek
help.
professional help. Yes.
Okay. And looking forward, as a society, what do you think we can do better to help people who are trying to overcome debt addiction and bad financial decisions?
So I think the first thing for us to do as a society is not to be judgmental.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to be judgmental, because it seems like being judgmental is like an instant thing, right? That
Mm-hmm.
moment
The
someone tells you,
reflex.
it's a reflex. Yes,
Yeah.
like it's now become like a natural,
Yes.
response towards something. When someone tells you, I'm owing so much, and what's that money? What did you do with it? No,
Yeah.
it's not really our business to know what they did with that money.
Yes.
But then to try and understand, to say, okay, this person is in a bad space right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are probably, feeling, they're already ashamed of themselves. They've already criticized themselves enough. And the worst that they need is, another person to start criticizing them, right?
Yeah.
And so as a society, let us be uh, more accommodating, when someone approaches us with such an issue. So we get to understand, okay, is this what you're going through? All right. How best, sometimes just ask, how best can I help you? So it's not about trying to say no, but then even with the debt repayment,
Yeah.
it's not really just there and then. No. So what you need to do with the debt? No, 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 no. You ask, what kind of help do I need?
Yeah.
So that you know in which framework this person is. You might be thinking debt restructuring is what this person needs, but maybe for them, they've already thought about another way. So, okay, I have a car or I have a house, I would want to sell it off and then, offset my debt. So we need to be present, right? And offer that support and let this person know that we're there and how do you want us to help?
Yeah.
In what ways do you want us to help, and not to start judging? So let us be more accommodating, because truth of the matter is that they're already going through a lot, and it's not necessary for us to also, it's not time to start bringing your think pieces. No, but financial what? No. Let us first deal with all that emotional turmoil that this person is currently undergoing. So physical support, them knowing that, you are there for them, and how do you help them to overcome this date? What are they thinking? What plans do they have? And then you help them navigate through that. And then also be intentional, because most of these either addictions, they've got a high rate of mental illnesses, the same depression, the anxiety, the suicide. So if we could also have deliberate, I can't say places in a way, but maybe programs that bring out a lot of awareness to say you don't have to struggle in silence.
Yeah.
Again, especially for the men, because the men just don't talk.
Yes.
So you don't have to struggle in silence. You don't have to struggle alone. We've got programs, or we've got places where you can come through and you're going to receive, this help that is there. So a lot of awareness about not being alone, that whether it's at Chinama, whether it's at any government institution that has got a mental health unit, people should freely, walk in and say, look, this is what is going on, and I need support in this area, and they'll be able to get that support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of programs and men, we were just discussing the interesting statistic of the fact that men are 7 times more likely to die by suicide in Zambia than women.
Yeah.
And you did mention a little bit about the work that you're doing with Maverick Minds, which is a program that you've designed for men to help them with their mental health and wellness in general, right?
Yeah.
Including mentorship problems and things like that. So, how do men sign up for your program? Is there like a social media that they can look you up? How do even our audience get in touch with you just for general mental health services?
Okay. So with Maverick Minds, so we ran, we just launched the men's mentorship program. So
Okay.
our first cohort will begin on the 8th of March,
Okay.
which is Women's Day.
Oh, what a
Yeah,
coincidence.
so 8th of March, and it will run up to 24th of March, 24th of May, sorry. And so this is like a 12-week program. So here we're focusing on, literally every aspect, right? Of, be it mentorship, be it leadership, be it mental health, be it finances itself, and just the heart-to-heart conversations where, you know, most men don't get to have. So yesterday, the application process was opened, and so you can follow us on Facebook. So that's Maverick Minds, and we have the whole application process. The links to the application is there. So this process is going on until the 2nd of March. Yeah, 2nd of March. That's when
That's
the application. Yeah,
application.
that's the application.
Okay.
But then also joining the community, because we'll have groups, let's say a WhatsApp group, where we'll be sharing a lot of insights. Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of insights. So themed insights. So be it maybe on a Monday, what are we focusing on a Wednesday, what are we focusing on, and on Friday, what are we focusing on? So these are to enable, because it's not everyone who can be enrolled into the program at once. So, but then being able to join this WhatsApp community or the Facebook community, as well as X, Twitter, Instagram as well, where we have a presence there, it will help even those that are not part of the ongoing program to be able to gain valuable lessons and even just opportunities and even maybe mentorship. You never know from such platforms.
What age are we targeting?
So the age that we're targeting for these programs is 25 to 50.
Okay.
But then the first cohort is, so the first cohort is from 25 to 35. Because
Oh,
we're
okay.
thinking, okay, these are like well, bordering between Gen Zs and the millennials.
Millennials.
Yeah, so want to try and see like how best do they work together, right? And also in sharing of
Oh.
experiences. Then the second cohort ideally would be for like 36 to 50. So these are more on
Okay.
the millennial side. So it's
Yes.
like, you know, just one concrete age group.
Yeah.
And then the third cohort, we're hoping we can now incorporate both. So the 25s all the way to the 50s, and see what the 25-year-olds can learn from the 50-year-olds and what the 50-year-olds can learn from, because definitely there's learning that's taking place on both sides.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I hope to you, male viewers, that you would sign up for this. We will include a link on our description so that you can follow to the Maverick Minds page and be able to sign up. Dr. Nancy, we've talked a lot about mental health in general, as well as overcoming debt addiction and bad financial decisions. So from all this chat that we've had, as the last word to our audience, what would you want to tell someone who is listening and they're feeling overwhelmed by their financial situation right now, in order to make them feel like they can begin to heal?
Okay. So my last words to a person who's listening or who will listen later is that you're not alone. Yeah, so that's the first thing. You're not alone. So you might not really have the family support that we're talking about. You might not really have the friends that are there, but then you have us, the professionals, who are always there to, you know, to help you navigate through this situation. So you don't have to struggle in silence, and you don't have to struggle alone. So identify a government facility that's close to you where you can seek these services. So even just a general doctor is equipped really to be able to help calm the initial storm, that emotional storm, you know, the feeling of hopelessness, the feeling of, well, I'm better off just, you know, dead than being alive,
Yes.
right? And then they're able to help you overcome that and then direct you to the next level of care. So do not just sit and feel like just because you don't have family support, then the world has, you know, turned its back against you. No. So you can always come through to any government facility, and most of the facilities have got mental health units, and you'll find someone who's readily available to assist you, and you'll be able, if, with the will to make it, you'll be able to get out of it. Yeah.
Okay, that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nancy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed your insights on this topic, and we hope to have you again on the show to discuss more topical issues in this space.
All right. Thank you so much. Looking forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, viewers. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Interact with us. Don't let it end here. Let us get interactive in the comments, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.